Hey guys, it's Liv here, and in today's video, we're going to be using Iron Leaves in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet Series 2 format. I know that Iron Leaves isn't currently legal, but this is essentially a what-if video if it was, so we're going to be doing a best of 3 against my good pal Rao. And if you enjoy this and you want to see more content like it, leave a like in the video and subscribe for more. And answer the comment question of the day: what is your favorite Iron Leaves set to use in competitive? My personal favorite set is probably the Scope Lens set. I think it functions a lot like Gallade, but it has a much better speed tier, and that's the set we'll actually be using today. So it's a great way to show it off, and yeah, with that said, let's get into it. So first up, we do obviously have the Scope Lens Iron Leaves with the Psyblade, Leaf Blade, Ziggurat Sword, and Protect. Now the Scope Lens is mostly here to boost Leaf Blade damage. You could go for Life Orb for a little bit more of a consistent damage output, but having the Leaf Blade have a higher crit rate against Pokemon like Dondozo, for example, and Garganacl will be extremely valuable for Iron Leaves. This is a Pokemon that is a really strong breaker, and in tandem with Quark Drive, you can actually just do significant damage to this Pokemon. You also have Ziggurat Sword, obviously, is a great way to be immune to Dozo. This is helpful for variants like Steel and Dragon that would otherwise resist Leaf Blade. So really, the only type you actually struggle with is Flying, which we do have other Pokemon on this team that can handle. Otherwise, the Terra Fighting also is just to ensure this to a KO with Electric Terrain. It's kind of insane how much damage this thing does, but it's so gross with terrain up. So we're going to really try and take advantage of that with this team. Now, I will say, this team, Pokemon-wise, is very similar to yesterday, but you're going to see pretty quickly that a lot of the teammates have very different roles in this build. Talonflame ends up being one of them. We actually bring back Will-O-Wisp for the over Sunny Day, because we don't really need Sunny Day. The role of the team is no longer to boost Walking Wake, so instead we're going to try and fish for Burns. I think this will be overall pretty helpful for Pokemon like Iron Hands that are just such good physical threats, and it's fairly likely too that my opponent may or may not bring this. Even still, it's great for Pokemon like Great Tusk as well that would be able to potentially Terra into a type I can't really pressure, but most importantly than anything, it's great for my Roaring Moon matchup, because especially against a not speed boosting set, Roaring Moon could actually be a huge pain in the ass for Iron Leaves with stuff like Acrobatics and Throat Chop that could put a lot of pressure on my build, so being able to burn that is just going to be insanely valuable. The Terra Ghost is obviously here to help with the Covert Cloak, so then we can avoid priority entirely and make sure that we keep a priority tailwind going up. However, Covert Cloak is still a great secondary, so then even if I don't Terra Ghost, I can still avoid getting flinched by Fake Out, which is useful against slower builds where I don't necessarily need the priority of Tailwind, I just need to guarantee it gets off. So overall, really good set. We have Great Tusk here with the Focus Sash, Rock Slide, Headlong Rush, Close Combat, and Protect. This set does not have Ice Spinner, and we ended up opting for Rock Slide instead, as I don't really want to remove terrain, as it does benefit my Iron Leaves a lot. Whether it's Electric, Grass, or Psychic, they all actually benefit me in some way, shape, or form, so why really try and get rid of it here? We have the set that I've ran a few different times on the channel, where we are meant to take on an Adamant, Boost Your Energy, Roaring Moon Acrobatics from full, which is great for this, as even if we end up losing our Focus Sash, there's still a high roll that we could end up living the hit, especially if, let's say, we end up losing the Focus Sash to some sort of weak attack like a Fake Out. Overall, though, with the speed as well, we're fairly fast, and since we are in a Tailwind team, this should still be able to outpace the majority of Pokemon. Currently, we're creeping for Modeschool Dango, but we could still utilize this creep very well under Tailwind anyway. Overall, really strong Terra Ground user with Headlong Rush being a really strong primary stab. We have Fluttermane with the Life Orb, just max speed, max special attack Fluttermane. The role here is really just to be a fast special attacker, and really the only Pokemon that should outpace this would be Booster Energy Pokemon that also have Tailwind up, or Iron Bundle that also has Tailwind up, which is a lot to ask actually. Like, I know that you could easily run this, and there's a lot of Pokemon that do, but shockingly enough, it's actually fairly hard to make that situation happen, and you need very specific leads. Really, it's only happening against opposing Talonflame teams, which I feel like my matchup against opposing Talonflame teams has always been really good despite this, so I don't really care about the fact that Fluttermane gets outpaced by a handful of Pokemon. Overall, really good special breaker for the team, and in tandem with Iron Leaves, should be a great partner. We have Iron Bundle up next with the Icy Wind, Hydro Pump, Protect, and Electric Terrain. Now, since I don't really care about using my Freeze Dry in this Pokemon too much, I decided to actually throw on Electric Terrain. Between the fact that we have Pokemon like Fluttermane that are still really strong special breakers for the special side of Dozo, as well as Pokemon like, for example, Will-O-Wisp, Talonflame, and Taunt on Talonflame to get around the subsets, I didn't really feel like Freeze Dry was going to be that important here. On paper, I still do threaten stuff like Gastrodon into Terra, as I can utilize stuff like Great Tusk and Iron Leaves with great potential to break any sort of Gastrodon set, which is great. So really every role that I would have actually brought Free Strike for is accounted for. So instead I threw on Electric Terrain, which should be really valuable for boosting the output that both Fluttermane will do speed-wise, in case I can't get Tailwind up, or if for some reason I switch it back in after a booster energy, but also for Iron Leaf just for its damage output, as it does determine a lot of 2-hit KOs. So overall, really important here. Terra Ghost is just to probably get around the fake outs in case I need to land an attack, but I don't want to click Protect on turn 1. Final one on the team is Assault Vest Kingambit. With this spread, we are 3-hit KO by Specs Modest Fluttermane, even if it is going for Moonblast, which is great. I threw on Assurance over Kowtow Cleave. I'm going to be honest, this was done just because I've heard this is a really good option on Kingambit, and I wanted to try running it. Now, I'm not really sure if this is better or worse than Kowtow, but I wanted to try it and just see how I feel with this. So really, this is just experimenting to see how good Assurance Kingambit really is. With that said, that's the team. We'll see you guys in the battle. Peace out, guys. So here's the open team sheet for my opponent's team that was brought against me. We decided to actually play this one in open team sheet, and we'll mention this probably a few times in the video. But my opponent decided to bring a Specs Fluttermane, a Dragon Fang Baxcalibur, Covert Cloak Talonflame is pretty much the same set that I had, maybe different EVs, but overall same sort of idea. Bonnet with Loaded Dice Terra Poison, Walking Wake with Terra Fire, and Great Tusk with Focus Ash Terra Ground. And I will say in the video, I'm going to mention this right now because it doesn't change the result of the game. But my opponent accidentally brought Terra Water on their first team sheet, but it was ultimately Terra Fire. Again, did not impact that particular game at all. It only really affected game 1, and by game 2 and maybe 3 if it happened, this was already situated. But just wanted to mention it. Regardless though, looking at my team, my game plan in a lot of these games, and I'll mention it in the video as well, but my game plan is typically to bank off of one of Iron Leaves, Great Tusk, or Fluttermane to win all of these games. I think realistically, all 3 are offensive monsters here. Fluttermane essentially will always force a Terra, as my opponent has no natural fairy resistance outside of Talonflame. So already off the bat, really huge starting point for me. And not only this, but all of the Terra options to get around Fluttermane are weak to either Great Tusk, Iron Leaves, or both. For example, we have Walking Wake, obviously, which is a fire type Terra. This would be weak to Great Tusk's Headlong Rush. Same for the Terra Poisons on Bax and Bonnet, but those are also going to be weak to the Iron Leaves. Meanwhile, we have Terra Steel on Fluttermane, which again, weak to both Iron Leaves and also the Great Tusk. Looking at my team in particular, I think Great Tusk is an amazing Terra option here. However, I feel like Iron Leaves more often than not will be my Terra Pokemon of choice. This is mostly going to be to get around weaknesses to Pokemon like Fluttermane that could just go for Spec Shadow Ball pretty freely against my build outside of Kingambit, which Kingambit's not bad here. It's a little hard for my opponent to KO, but my team is definitely going to struggle against Great Tusk if I don't have Tailwind up and my opponent does. So essentially, I either need to make sure that I have really strong ways around Great Tusk at all times by making sure I match the speed tier, or that I don't bring Kingambit, so at least my Pokemon aren't going to be giving away slots to it. So that's really going to be my game planning going into these games. Walking Wake will also be kind of an issue, but thankfully my opponent doesn't seem to actually have a Sunny Day user. If it had Sunny Day and was like a special attack boosting set, this could actually become a nightmare for my team to play against, as Water, Dragon, and Fire are such obnoxious Pokemon types to switch around, and especially with the Terra Fire on Walking Wake, this will definitely be a bit scary, but I think that I can make it work. We'll see you guys in the battles. Peace out, guys. Hey guys, we're here today using our Iron Leaf showcase. This is gonna be a best of 3, similarly to how the best of 1 went for the Walking Wake showcase. You know what? Wait, hold on. I'm just gonna re-intro. Hey guys, we're here today doing a best of 3 open team sheets exhibition with my team using the Iron Leaves and my opponent using Walking Wake. This is going to be kind of an inverse, where in yesterday's video I used Walking Wake. In today's video I'm going to be showing off Iron Leaves and some of the things that it can do in competitive. So if you enjoy this and you want to see more, leave a like and subscribe. And with that said, let's get into it. So my opponent's team today, it's a pretty similar team to mine, and honestly, as I mentioned in the first video I did discussing how to use these mons, I think both of these are going to be really good Tailwind cores. I think that in terms of my lead, I lead off with Talonflame and Bundle. I think it'll do really good here with Leaves cleaning for us, actually. I think it'll be an amazing cleaner. Now for the last mon, I think it's probably going to be Tusk. Though I could also get some Merit and Fluttermane. Keep in mind, this is game 1, so I could really try and take advantage of what my opponent might bring game 1, and use Tusk as a more of a matchup pick game 2, which I think will be what I do, as Fluttermane doesn't have a great fairy resist here on this entire team outside of Talonflame, And then Terra, which for what it's worth, there are a lot of Terra mons that could get around this, such as Terra Poison Excalibur, Terra Poison Bonnet, and Terra Steel Fluttermane. I'll have went over the open team sheet that my opponent has at the beginning of this video, and I'll go over that in sort of my approach to matchups. I'll try and intersplice that in between the sets, but regardless though, my opponent is going to lead off with Fluttermane Talonflame game 1. So this is good to know. Obviously with game 1, so Fluttermane plus Talonflame. So my bundle should actually be the fastest Pokemon on the field even still. This is a Choice Specs Fluttermane. However, it could end up going for some sort of Terra Steel here, which would give it the matchup against my Fluttermane, as well as making sure that my opponent would have the advantage for their Fluttermane, I guess. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually go for the Hydro Pump here. This Hydro Pump going into Fluttermane, I think will be for the best. I don't really need to go for Speed Control in my opinion, as Speed Control, despite not being terrible, I feel like that ultimately it's not going to be as valuable long term here when I do have means of outpacing the Fluttermane. Now, my opponent also goes for Tailwind here. That's perfectly fine. We're going to probably end up seeing my opponent's Fluttermane going for a Shadow Ball or a Dazzling Gleam. I can't imagine it clicks anything else here. They're actually going to go for Power Gem. Okay, so Power Gem is pretty interesting, but I do get the fact that this could hit both Pokemon pretty well successfully offensively. So, you know what? I'll take that. I forgot that they don't have Thunderbolt, they have Power Gem, but that still achieves the same end goal, of course, there. What I'm going to proceed to do here, I'm going to bring in my Iron Leaves. Let's see, so they are Terra Ghost, so they have Brave Bird as well. Ooh, never mind, I don't think I can actually bring in Iron Leaves. I think I have to go in the Fluttermane here. Which Fluttermane being the mon of choice is a little bit unfortunate. The fact they did lock into Power Gem here is a little bit grim. However, I do actually get a priority Brave Bird into the Fluttermane spot, which is pretty good for me. I'm going to proceed to go for a Shadow Ball into the Talonflame, as it will at least be a neutral hit, unlike with the Fluttermane where it's not going to necessarily be. I guess that no, never mind. I guess Fluttermane would have been. But I also want to avoid my opponent maybe going for the, just going for priority Brave Birds later on. Though they could, I guess, go for just Brave Bird now. I don't know, maybe I should have just attacked Fluttermane. I feel like that would have been the safer play to dual target. The point being, though, is I still feel fine with this play. Realistically, this Fluttermane is thankfully locked into Power Gem, so it's not going to get a super effective attack off on mine, so it's not as concerning by that logic. I still think that realistically their Fluttermane wasn't going to Terra. I think it's going to be Bax with how they led off with Fluttermane. They're going to bring in Excalibur now, which is fine. I can still get off a pretty strong Brave Bird on this. And then on the following turn, I'll outpace it, which is going to be good. Their Brave Bird will go into my Talonflame first, which means that I'm obviously going to lose my priority here. However, it's not really a huge concern because they've also lost priority now, so it should be perfectly fine. Their Talonflame faints anyway, actually, which is good for us. However, at the same time, we now know that they should, well, yeah, so essentially at this point, I'm kind of aiming off of a speed tie now, which is a little bit grim, because they could, in theory, go for like a Shadow Ball into my Fluttermane, or even just go for a Moonblast for a nice neutral play. Moonblast would also be good against my back, so they might end up actually going for that, and that could be pretty rough. I'm going to guess that either Fluttermane comes, or the only exception might be if they brought Bonnet. I think the Bonnet could be a really good just general Sporemon here, specifically with the Terra Poison. If really, Bonnet only comes out if it was a Terra. Okay, so they're going to go into Walking Wake. So Walking Wake is actually fine here. They have always worse priority against me, actually. So I'm going to go for the Will-O-Wisp. No, I can't go for Will-O-Wisp, right, because it can't be burned. I'm going to go for the Brave Bird then into Walking Wake. Actually, no, I'm going to go for the Brave Bird into Bax, because Bax actually took a lot from the last Brave Bird. And I think I can go for Terra Fairy Gleam and get off some really substantial damage into both of these Pokemon. Now, obviously, Ice Shard will hurt a ton from Excalibur. However, thankfully, we haven't actually boosted that Thermal Exchange yet. So this Thermal Exchange not being boosted means that Excalibur will be hitting significantly worse offensively, with its boosting item on this particular set being Dragon Fang. That means that my opponent doesn't have a way to boost their Ice Shard damage, which should be good for me. My Fluttermane outpaces both of these Pokemon, and despite the fact this isn't going to most likely be Terra Poison into Excalibur, I'm still okay with this. They're actually going to go for Walking Wake here. Now this is interesting. They're going to be Terra Fire. Ooh, their open team sheet was wrong. Let me let my opponent know that. It's not a huge deal. I'll fix it in the team builder, obviously. Here is... There we go. Oh, you know what? Shit, I think I fucked that up. I think I fucked that up when getting their set. Yeah, okay, so their set actually, their set had fire when they, okay, yeah. So I was right in my logic for this, because when I got them the Mons, that was a Terrifier. Their open team sheet's wrong. But I should have also known that for what it's worth, because I got the team. Anyway, my opponent's going to go for Hydro Steam here. Hydro Steam is perfectly fine. Fluttermane will unfortunately end up dying to this. But it's not really a huge concern. I should still be overall pretty fine here. So I will definitely take that, because I can outpace the Walking Wake with Brave Bird and just massacre. So I'm pretty okay with this. The one issue will be with Iron Bundle. So let's see. Yeah, so the Fluttermane might actually be a little bit concerning. However, at the same time, Fluttermane kind of has to pick between hitting one of my Pokemon Super... Well, no, actually, they don't really have to pick, do they? This could be bad, actually. Okay. So I'm trying to think of how I'm going to approach this. So they obviously have to go into Fluttermane here. Fluttermane coming in is going to be fine. Realistically, they're going to probably have to lock... I'm going to guess they have to lock in a Shadow Ball. We'll have Leaves in, thankfully. I can't Terra, sadly, but it's not a huge deal. They're going to probably go for Gleam, if I had to guess. Maybe? I feel like Gleam is the best play here. It's definitely the best play, in my opinion. We'll go for the Brave Bird regardless into the Walking Wake, because that can actually hit me for super effective really quickly. Meanwhile, I'm going to go for the Psyblade into... I think I'm going to go for Psyblade into Walking Wake as well, just to guarantee kill it. Because that Flamethrower will hurt like a bitch, especially coming from a Pokemon that is a Terrifier type, of course. Now, I'm going to hope that my opponent did not go for Shadow Ball into my Iron Leaves, because that would probably be game at this point. However, at the same time, I think this is still a necessary sacrifice, because at the very least I have the information for later on that my Talonflame actually does outpace their Fluttermane, which is good for us. They went for Gleam anyway this turn, which is perfect for me. I should be able to KO the Fluttermane with Psy Spam. Now, realistically, my guess is that they thought the Fluttermane would outpace my Talonflame, which makes a lot of sense, and then they could go for the Gleam, pick off both pick off the Fluttermane on the Talonflame, and then KO the Iron Leaves on the following turn, which makes a lot of sense. However, it did not work out well for them, and we end up actually winning game 1, so you know what? I'll take that. I thought that there was going to be a bit of an issue because of the open team sheet error. However, it's not really a huge deal. It luckily worked itself out. With that said, we're going to get into game number 2. Peace out. All right, moving on to game number 2. So last time, my opponent ended up bringing the combination of Walking Wake and Baxcalibur in the back, with Fluttermane and Talonflame leading. So in terms of game number 2, I do anticipate... So they didn't really have a lot from my own Fluttermane, is the thing. While they did have, obviously, the Terra on Walking Wake, which we now know is Fire, which means that they do have another Resist, this actually changes up my game plan significantly. I feel like that, with this in mind, I have a lot more benefit in bringing Great Tusk here, and specifically utilizing this as a Terramon. However, I could also take advantage of the Iron Leaves as my Terramon. I think the one downside with this, though, is the Iron Leaves typically benefits from Terra a lot more in Tendozo matchups. You don't really need to Terra it otherwise, in my opinion. But offensively, this is still a really good Pokemon here. I think I'm going to lead off with Iron Bundle and Iron Leaves, and just try and go for a really strong turn. Actually, no. So I do kind of need to lead off with Iron Bundle and the Talonflame. I think I need to bring Iron Leaves in the back. Or I could actually lead off with Iron Leaves and Talonflame. And then go for... Nope, never mind. I should always lead off with Bundle, yeah. We're gonna bring Iron Leaves in the back, and then I think that I'm gonna bring... Let's see, so they were fairly weak to... They're actually fairly weak to King Gambit now that I'm thinking out loud. I'm gonna bring King Gambit in the back, actually, because King Gambit with the Salt Vest should be able to chew everything they brought. The one Pokemon they didn't bring, which was Baxcalibur, I really don't actually see them adding onto this matchup, considering the fact that I brought both Iron Bundle and Iron Leaves to game 1. So I think the Great Tusk will actually sit at home, which should open up King Gambit significantly here. Their best means of counterplay for that Pokemon would be either Specs Moonblast, Terrifying Flamethrower, which that is an actual check for what it's worth, but I can offensively priority pressure that, or with the Will-O-Wisp and Talonflame. Now they're going to lead off with the Brute Bonnet and the Talonflame. Now Bonnet Talonflame is definitely interesting to say the least. I think that I'm going to proceed to go for the Electric Surge here. Now this should obviously help getting around my opponent's terrain while also boosting Quark Drive on my Pokemon, which means that they should outpace my opponent even more. With Iron Leaves' case, it's going to outdamage my opponent's entire team. So I'll go for Tailwind here, and then I'm going to go for Electric Terrain here. This should help with the long term against my opponent, and despite the fact that obviously the Bullet Seed from Brute Bonnet will probably KO my bundle, I'm fine with giving it up after this turn, because truthfully it won't make a difference after turn 1. They could also use this turn to maybe try and Spore my Talonflame, because despite the fact that Pokemon such as Iron Bundle will be immune to Spore, Talonflame being a flying type will actually lose its immunity, and in theory I could have went for Terra Ghost to get around this, but I value the Terra type on other Pokemon, to be honest. My opponent's going to go for Talonflame Tailwind turn 1. That's perfectly fine. Kind of shocked to see no Sunny Dye. I feel like with the Walking Wake team, Sunny Dye could have been really good. And I feel like it would have benefited the bundle a lot, the Bonnet a lot, but it's honestly fine. We'll get the Electric Surge off here. Even if I do lose Bundle this turn, again, we saw the Bundle didn't make a difference after the turn 1 last time. They do go for Spore and Talonflame, so good play by my opponent. I could have maybe tried to Terra around this at the very least, but it's not a huge concern. My opponent just sent me the updated team sheet, by the way, so this worked out perfect. It's literally just the Terrifier, as I was thinking. So Talonflame being put to sleep is a little bit annoying, but it's not a huge deal. I'm going to go for Brave Bird here, and then I'm going to proceed to go for the Hydro Pump into the Talonflame. Realistically, when one of my Pokemon dies, I can proceed to bring in Iron Leaves and actually start going for some insane offensive pressure on my opponent. And even with the Talonflame still alive, as long as I end up breaking this thing's Scale Wings, which it looks like I'm going to do now, I'm actually in a fairly good position, and I might even be able to just outright OHKO this Pokemon, which will also be fairly huge because this is one of my opponent's best ways around Iron Leaves. So they'll end up losing the Talonflame here, which is really genuinely huge for me. Meanwhile, I'm going to lose Bundle to Bullet Seed, which is a little unfortunate, but it is what it is. My opponent should be, let's see, so I do need to play a little bit of a 50-50 here. I think I am going to ultimately go for the Terra on my Iron Leaves, and it really depends on what my opponent brings in next. I think the only situation that I don't go for Terra on Iron Leaves would be... Actually, no, I think I always go for Terra on Iron Leaves, because Talonflame is gone now, so I no longer actually need to worry about the risk that might have come with this play, which could have been Brave Bird Talonflame, still getting a super effective attack off of me. By going for the Terra here, though, I would lose the potential to be harmed by Bullet Seed from the Bonnet. Well, not from the Bullet Seed, from the Spore, because I have the Train Up anyway. Meanwhile, I would also still be able to avoid the super effective from stuff like Flutter Mane going through Gleam. I think I might actually wait for the turn. Well, no, I would also avoid the Crunch, which is pretty good, because I feel like I am going to probably get crunched. I'm going to go for Brave Bird in the Bonnet regardless. And then I'm going to proceed to go for the Psyblade into Walking Wake. Psyblade should be a significantly strong way to break this Pokemon. The fact that it's boosted by Electric Train on top of my Quark Drive also boosting attack on the set should be game-changing. We did see that my Talonflame was fairly fast last time, so I'm kind of curious if maybe the Walking Wake also wasn't max speed. I personally run max speed on mine. I feel like obviously, you know, just avoiding these sort of potential scenarios is valuable, but maybe my opponent had an offensive Hulk in mind, so this might play into our favor. Realistically though, this Iron Leaves regardless, I don't think they'll KO me because the fact that I'm not anticipating that they went for Hydro Steam here. So my guess is that my opponent went for some sort of Terrifier Flamethrower into my spot. Either that or they maybe went for Terrifier as a defensive way around Leaf Blade, and then they're going for Hydro Steam with the Talonflame. Either one would be beneficial. They could also just go for Draco, which is a nice middle ground there, but it obviously lowers the special attack for the long term. I'm not really too sure what the out is here, but regardless, I feel like that I have a good turn. They're going to go for Protect on Brute Bonnet. Perfect for me, in all honesty. Because realistically, by Bonnet being the protected Pokemon and not Walking Wake, I get an even more free turn here to avoid just taking any damage at all. And we do actually outpace this, which is huge. And this animation, by the way, is gorgeous. Kind of shocked we didn't KO, albeit I know we're Scope Lens, which means that obviously we're not consistently boosting damage, but still thought we might do a little bit more damage. Regardless, though, knowing that we do outpace this Pokemon for later on is going to be huge. That's actually going to change how we play this Pokemon greatly. I'm going to Brave Bird the Bonnet, and I'm going to go for the Psyblade into the Walking Wake. Now, I might lose this and ultimately to the Bonnet, depending on if I KO it or not with Talonflame, but I still feel like this is for the best. Talonflame is still asleep. Oh my god, this Pokemon really just cannot catch a break. Psyblade will get protected around, so we're going to lose Bonnet, which is a little unfortunate. Well, we're going to lose this 2 Bonnet, I should say, which is a little unfortunate. However, at the same time, I'm not too concerned here. Well, maybe it's actually... No, it's loaded dice, so this should guarantee kill me. A little unfortunate, but honestly, I can make this work. I can definitely make this work. We got a huge chunk off into Walking Wake. It's now in Life Orb range. We've KO'd the Talonflame already. Bonnet should be pressured by my last 2, which is perfectly fine. I can't really beat my King Gambit, despite obviously having Spore potentially. We still have another turn of Terrain, and I can potentially just Sucker Punch on the I could just Sucker Punch into the slot for Walking Wake so I can avoid taking damage from Talonflame. Meanwhile, I can also just proceed to go for the Brave Bird into Bonnet, and even if I don't outright OHKO it, I could still get off a really strong hit and 2-hit KO it, proceeding to go for maybe like a Brick Break on the following turn, which would be really good for me. Now, the last Pokemon, if that is Great Tusk, that's the only way I think I actually genuinely lose this game, albeit Fluttermane would still be a really good offensive piece, but I think that ultimately I only lose if it's Great Tusk. So we're going to see Fluttermane come in. Fluttermane coming in is fine. We know that Talonflame actually does outpace this Pokemon, which will be really, really huge for me. This Brave Bird should do a substantial amount of damage to Bonnet. It does not KO though. However, I'm still fine with this. I can proceed to go for the... I think I'm going to go for the Brave Bird. I guess the question is, do I... So I'm going to definitely go for the Brave Bird into the Fluttermane plus the Sucker Punch. I think I value taking out Fluttermane more, as we do see that realistically Kingambit can't get too well pressured offensively. They could go for Spore, which actually Spore could be... Ooh, Spore could have actually been a pretty big deal. I think maybe I should have went for the Sucker Punch into the Fluttermane plus the Brave Bird into Bonnet. But I think they're going to probably protect that anyway and try and just avoid a Brave Bird, maybe try and Gleam KO my Pokemon or something. Sucker Punch will go off. This is going to do a sizable amount of damage. So Fluttermane is at least taken care of, which is good. I'm going to lose Talonflame, so really I could be in trouble if they Spored, but I still have a turn to potentially wake up and maybe pressure the Walking Wake. So I essentially need to hope my opponent did not quick Spore this turn, and that I get a really good early wake up. That's kind of what I need to bank on. They are going to go for Spore. Okay, this is fine. Let's see. So I need to wake up. I need to wake up, essentially, is what I need to do. This could be bad. This could definitely be bad. But Walking Wake has one turn to damage me. It has one turn to damage me. So I actually think that I go for the Brick Break into Bonnet, because I won't wake up this turn. And I think by KOing the Bonnet on the following turn, that should hopefully benefit me more. They're going to Flamethrower. I am Assault Vest, but at the same time, this is Terrifier Life Orb set with... I'm going to assume it's Modest, considering the fact that I outpaced it with Leaves, and I don't know a reason why you'd run a slower Timid set. But maybe Modest might be creeping like Sandy Shocks with this. No, I don't think Sandy Shocks. Maybe a Great Tusk could be the creep. Regardless, Bullets is going to go off. This does nothing, so as long as I wake up on the following turn, we should be pretty set. I need to wake up, though, and outpace my opponent, which could be kind of rough. But it's something that I obviously need to chance. So we do take this hit, thankfully, even with the 5 turns. However, I will definitely not take another one. So essentially what needs to happen here is I need to KO my opponent on this turn in particular. We know that we underpace as well, which is not a great look. So I need to go for Sucker Punch, actually, and I need to wake up immediately at this point. We are fast asleep, unfortunate, but this is going to be the end of game number 2. So we'll see you guys in game number 3. We're going to hope to bring it back home. Realistically, I feel like I have a good enough way to beat my opponent, knowing what my opponent did and didn't bring. So I'm just going to have to play around that a bit better. I think I could have maybe tried to protect Leaves a bit better, because I think it was, in all honesty, my win con here. But regardless, we'll see you guys in match number 3. Peace out. Okay, so moving on to game number 3, obviously with this team, so they've brought Talonflame both times as lead, which truthfully makes the most sense. I feel like that Talonflame as a lead is the best play here in a lot of cases. So I guess the question is my opponent has led off with Bonnet and Fluttermane as that second slot. Bonnet was a really good Pokemon for my opponent to lead off with last time. The question is there a lead that I can go with that would put pressure on Bonnet while still being able to pressure the Talonflame well? And I think this kind of has to be Great Tusk. And I think I actually need to give up on the Tailwind in order to beat my opponent, which feels a little counterintuitive. But I think that at the same time, this lead... So essentially, my play here would be to... No, never mind. I do go for Tailwind. I go for Tailwind and I go for Close Combat into the Bonnet spot. Now, essentially, the thought process with this sort of play would be to go for a turn 1 where I'm not leading off with Bundle and Talonflame. Instead, I'm going to try and put a lot of offensive pressure on the Bonnet, or even the Fluttermane potentially. And then I need to bring in Iron Leafs clean. That's what I need to do. Now, I could go with Bundle as a backseater, and I think Bundle as a backseater could be valuable, as I could maybe, for example, get some good chip on the Bonnet, and then just try and pick it off with Icy Wind, which I think might be what we need to do. I could bring Kingambit as well. Ultimately, I'm going to actually bring Kingambit. I think Kingambit will be slightly better here. So we're going to go with that. Good luck, have fun to my opponent. I'm hoping that I did not make a mistake by benching Bundle here. But I feel like that ultimately the Kingambit being as obnoxious to KO for my opponent as possible will hopefully be a bit better for me. because it really is just Walking Wake and Great Tusk here. And I think that I can handle both those Pokemon pretty well. My opponent has not brought Great Tusk either game. They've seen that I've brought the same lead both times. Fluttermane backs Caliber. Okay. So this is fine, actually. Fluttermane backs Caliber's a lead. Their choice Fluttermane, so I can actually just go for a Headlong Rush here. Headlong Rush into the Fluttermane should be a great play. They would have to double into Talonflame essentially for this to not get off, which should be good for me. And I can go for Tailwind, and I should guarantee outpace because I am just a max speed Great Tusk. So by killing the Fluttermane, they would have to go hard into either Bonnet essentially either into Bonnet or Talonflame here. They could go into their own Great Tusk, but obviously if that's Focus Sash, just losing their Sash isn't great. They could, I'm gonna guess that they're gonna probably go for like an Ice Shard into, well, Ice Crash into Ice Shard into my Great Tusk, which is fine, I don't really mind that. But their Fluttermane is definitely switching out, and I'm fine with the damage on whatever comes in. Fluttermane is going to withdraw here, perfectly fine. They're going to bring in Talonflame. Okay. This is fine. I couldn't really risk the Bax Caliber here because obviously if they went for the Terra Poison, this attack wasn't going to be doing great anyway. I can always just go for a, let's see, they're going to go for Headlong Rush. Ooh, so they probably anticipated, I'm not sure. Oh, you know what? No, that was my Headlong Rush. I was a little bit confused there for a second, but you know what? This makes a lot more sense. We're going to regardless go for the Rock Slide here. Rock Slide should be a great play into both Pokemon. And then I can proceed to go for a Brave Bird into my opponent's, let's see, so I could actually go for a Brave Bird into Talonflame. This would stop the priority from their Tailwind, which would mean that I could just KO it outright. So I think that's what I'm actually going to do. I think that'll be for the best. So their Talonflame gets the Tailwind priority broken, which means that I can just go for Rock Slide, KO the Talonflame, and they no longer get Tailwind up, which should be huge for my game. I will always outpace their team, which is going to be valuable. Now, I might lose Great Tusk in the process, but I think that's a worthwhile trade personally. They're actually going to go for Glaive Rush into my Talonflame. Even better, in all honesty. This works out so well for me. Okay. So I think I'm going to definitely bring the Iron Leaves here. Iron Leaves should have an amazing showing at this point because my opponent, they might not even have a switch into this Pokemon, truthfully. So I think that I'm going to definitely go for, I need to check the damage here. So I feel like it might be in my best interest to just dual target. Just dual target this Bax Caliber. Actually, hold on. So Bax Caliber, we're going to check for like a bulky set versus Iron Leaves. Okay. So Iron Leaves, I know, so let's see. So we're going to see the Walking Weight come in. Let's see. So Psyblade, Sacred Sword. Okay, so Sacred Sword versus Bax Caliber. Okay. So this should, let's see. So Glaive Rush, Glaive Rush, Glaive Rush. Okay, so it just does double damage. That's right. Okay. So even if they do go for like a Terra Poison here, I should still do enough with this plus, yeah. So I'm gonna go. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go for the Rock Slide here. Actually, I'm gonna target the Walking Weight down instead, and then I'm gonna go for the Psyblade into this. This should be a fairly easy way to take out Walking Wake, and Walking Wake is definitely the biggest threat to my Kingambit in the back. So I'm actually just gonna dual target this. I could have maybe went for Rock Slide, but at the same time, I want to ensure the single target will go off here because by ensuring the single target's going off, since my Psyblade is going to do less damage without the terrain up, I would much rather just make sure that I'm KOing instead. Let's see. So, looking at this, my opponent did not actually Terra here, which is great. I should be able to guarantee take this out. I'm gonna assume. Oh, that does nothing. Oh, that does literally no damage. Can Great Tusk KO? Oh, we just barely miss. Okay, well, that's unfortunate actually, because I do think that this means I lose a Pokemon here. They're actually gonna go into the Iron Leaves. We barely take this hit, which is fine. We luckily, though, do trade the Walking Wake, so honestly, I'm okay with this. Okay, so this worked out well. At this point, it is essentially just the so it's the Bax Caliber and the Fluttermane against my duel. So they still have Terra, but honestly, it's not a huge concern. What I'm going to proceed to do, I'm going to go for the Headlong Rush here into Fluttermane, and I'm going to go for the Sacred Sword I'm going to go for the Psyblade here into, I'm going to go for the Sacred Sword actually into Bax. Essentially, I should be able to KO one of these Pokemon guaranteed at this point. I'm going to assume that the Bax will Ice Shard my Great Tusk, and then proceed to go for, Fluttermane will probably go for like a Terra Steel here. Well, actually, no, I think it's going to really be one or the other. I think it's going to be one or the other. I think that it's either going to be the Bax that Terras or the Fluttermane that Terras here. Essentially, I think that if the Bax Terras, it's probably going to value more so clicking Ice Shard into the into the, oh, so actually neither Terrid. Because I assumed that if Bax Terrid was going to try and value targeting my Iron Leaves. But this is fine, actually. I'm fine with KOing this. Because realistically, even if Fluttermane does go for a Fairy type attack, I should still be okay to 1v1 this with King Gambit. Scope Lens popping off a crit finally. Great. I wish this thing had Focus Energy, but it's still great. My opponent's going to go for Moonblast. Okay, so it essentially comes down to can Gambit take a Moonblast from this Pokemon? Now it is Terra Steel, which means that they can, in theory, get around their... Well, they're still neutral anyway. They're still neutral anyway, so this is fine. But it comes down to essentially if King Gambit can take this out or not, which I think King Gambit can. King Gambit definitely can. Now King Gambit, we are Assault Vest. I know that my calc is actually for this specifically. So it's 252, and I think it's like 84 versus Fluttermane. Yeah, okay, so Fluttermane should definitely KO this. Well, I definitely shouldn't KO this. We're gonna go for the Assurance here, and then I'm gonna proceed to go for a Sucker Punch in the following turn. They are gonna Terrestrial into Steel. It's fine. I figured they would Terrestrial into Steel, and I wanted to click Brick Break just to, you know, seem like I read this. But at the same time, if they didn't Terrestrial Steel, I actually could have lost this game. So I really couldn't make that gamble, as funny as it would have been for the content. Because I'm not losing my best of 3 with Iron Leaves when I set this up so well, to the fact that I choked. Assurance will go off here. This should do a ton of damage. I really just wanted to show off the Assurance damage, truthfully. We're gonna proceed to go for how much? Ooh, how much does Assurance do? Let's see, Assurance. So Assurance definitely does less damage than Sucker Punch. This is a fairly bulky Fluttermane, but the fact that Assurance definitely does less, Sucker Punch should just KO here. Perfect. Okay. So we ended up winning the set 2-1. So honestly, I'll take that. Iron Leaves actually proved to be a fairly good offensive threat for my team, and especially with the Tailwind turn into the Brave Bird turn into Talonflame, I think that genuinely gave me a really good chance to win this. And I hope you guys got to see that this Pokemon could actually be a fairly good pick on Tailwind teams. If you enjoyed this and are looking forward to using Iron Leaves in competitive, leave a like in the video and subscribe for more. Shoutouts to our channel members as of the time of recording this. That is Josh K Ultra Player, Mia, Zeke Zero, Mato Shade, and Koemi. Your guys' support is greatly appreciated on the channel, and if you want to become a channel member today, it's a couple $1 a month. And starting on March 11th, we're gonna have some special ladder series going up to Master Ball, and I hope to see you guys then. Otherwise, peace out, guys.